Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Okay, Jared responded lightly. His expression remained cold, as if he was not excited about this outcome. Perhaps, this had always been the outcome he expected. As for Lawrence, I've already sent people over to happiness trading. It's probably a lose-lose situation over there. Max sounded pleased. You've taken away our partnership, so we'll show you now that some things shouldn't be meddled with. Let's renew the contract with Radiance Commerce, Jared ordered. He leaned back in his seat with a cold gaze, pondering. Something. Max responded to him and continued driving without disturbing Jared anymore. On the other hand, Ian hurriedly returned to the company. Boss, Happiness Trading is very upset with us. They're disappointed and expressed that they no longer want to work with us, Ian reported in a muffled voice, his face turning pale. Do they think Jared would want to work with them still? Lawrence scoffed. How could Jared tolerate the betrayal? When Happiness Trading chose us, there was no turning back anymore. What should we do? Ian asked. Don't worry, they'll come to us. If they don't want to collaborate with us, we can just find someone else, Lawrence replied. Nonchalantly. Compared to this issue with Happiness Trading, he was more bothered about the fact that they had lost so disgracefully. What about the Johnston Group? Lawrence asked through gritted teeth. Nothing from them. Perhaps. Ian's voice lowered slightly as he continued, perhaps they don't really care about this matter. A chill ran down his spine after he said that, and he buried his head even lower. But Jared and the Johnston Group really did give off that impression. Ever since the beginning, Ian had never noticed any particular response from the Johnston Group. It was as if they had simply switched to another company after Happiness Trading rejected to work with them. And somehow, things turned out this way in the end. It was as if they were the only ones who were desperately trying to provoke Jared, but Jared did not give them any response whatsoever. They thought that Jared would be afraid, but at the end of the day, Jared just could not care less. They had ultimately realized that they had clowned themselves. You can leave now, Lawrence's voice turned heavy, but he suppressed the frustration in his heart. Yes, boss, Ian responded and turned to leave. The office fell into silence, and the air around Lawrence started to change. He clenched his fists slightly as his gaze darkened. He was feeling increasingly uneasy. He had devised a plan to trouble Jared, hoping to distract him and gain more alone time with Nicole. However, he was taken aback when Jared unexpectedly turned the tables on him. Ha! Lawrence chuckled softly, his laughter sending shivers down the spine. Jared truly lives up to his reputation. After 5 years, he has grown even stronger. I clearly underestimated him. Nevertheless, there's still a long journey ahead, and I will ultimately win Nicole's heart. His eyes fixated on the desk as he delved into his thoughts. After some time, he rose from his seat and exited the office. Are you heading to Riddle Corporation? Ian promptly approached him. Get the car ready, Lawrence left him a simple instruction and headed towards the elevator. Ian quickly followed suit, notifying the people in charge to prepare a car for Lawrence. Soon, Lawrence got in the car and left the company. Boss, are you going to Riddle Corporation? Confused, Ian asked to get a confirmation once more. Why is he going to Riddle Corporation now? Shouldn't he be figuring out how to resolve the issue with Happiness Trading and the loss of our company? Lawrence glanced at Ian with an annoyed expression which ultimately shut him up. After some time, they arrived at the Riddle Corporation. They greeted the receptionist and walked into the elevator to get to Nicole's office. The receptionist had already notified Nicole, so she knew that Lawrence was coming. When Nicole heard someone knocking on her door, she immediately said, "Come in." Lawrence opened the door, and Nicole smiled. What brings you here? Work. Since Lawrence had always brought collaboration projects whenever he visited her, Nicole assumed that Lawrence must be here for work this time. But unexpectedly, Lawrence calmly sat down on the couch and said, I'm not busy today, so I thought I'd come and see you. Nicole was both amused and defeated. You're not busy? The Genesis Group had just entered San Joto and was currently in a vigorous development stage, so she thought Lawrence should be busy. Of course, I'm not made of iron. Lawrence pushed the blame onto his body instead of admitting that he had less work. Well, let's just assume you're here to rest. Nicole knew there were some questions she could not ask too explicitly, so she changed the topic. But you're not just going to sit in my office, are you? Even if he wanted to rest, he should have somewhere else to go instead of wasting time here. Just for a while, Lawrence knew he could not stay here indefinitely, and Nicole would not agree to it either. Besides, it was a workplace, and it was inappropriate for him to stay for too long. Nicole felt helpless upon hearing this. You're not in any trouble, are you? Lawrence's gaze slightly flickered, but he quickly returned to normal and smiled. Just some minor work troubles. Knock, knock. After the sound of knocking, Lulu pushed the door open. Coffee. Nicole arched her brows, wondering why Lulu was the one bringing the coffee. Lulu placed the coffee down and glanced discreetly at Lawrence. She inexplicably felt cautious toward this unfamiliar man. Nicole sighed in silence as she reminded Lulu it's fine. You can leave now. Sure. Lulu nodded and left. Your secretary. Lawrence squinted slightly. Lulu's actions back there did not escape his eyes. Yeah. Nicole did not explain any further. She did not remember anything about the past, so she did not want to say much about it either. Lawrence was a little curious though. When did you get a new secretary? She's not really a replacement, just an addition, Nicole explained. Upon hearing this, Lawrence did not ask any further and took a few sips of his coffee. Are you doing well recently? Lawrence casually asked. Not bad. Why do you ask? Nicole was a bit puzzled, suddenly feeling that Lawrence was acting a bit strange today. Lawrence smiled slightly, seemingly relieved. It seems like you've adapted well to life in San Joto. Well, not exactly adapted, but I know that some things are my responsibility, so it's easier for me to accept, Nicole shrugged. In fact, thinking about her life after returning, Nicole found that it was smoother than she had anticipated. That's good, Lawrence appeared quite reassured. Nicole squinted slightly and asked, Why do you ask? I'm planning to return to the island soon, and I figured that you probably don't have time to come with me. That's why I'm here to ask if you want anything from the island, Lawrence explained with a smile. You're going back to Crescent Island? Nicole was shocked. Why is he going back all of a sudden? She had decided to settle in San Joto and had already taken care of everything on Crescent Island. Lawrence had also made all the necessary arrangements before coming to San Joto and even expanded his business here. For that reason, she did not expect Lawrence to suddenly want to go back. I have some urgent matters to attend to back there, but I'll be back soon, Lawrence said. Oh. Nicole didn't inquire further and just told Lawrence, I don't have anything I want from there. All right, I'll be back as soon as possible. Lawrence got up and prepared to leave. Nicole raised an eyebrow and asked, Are you leaving now? Yeah. I'm going back to pack up and I'll head to the airport right after. Lawrence looked at Nicole and ultimately swallowed the words of asking her to send him off at the airport. Nicole probably won't go. Well, if there's anything you need help with, feel free to contact me. Nicole was willing to help him if she could. Previously, Lawrence had always been the one helping her, but now that she had the ability, she was more than willing to assist him too. Though Lawrence did not mention his reasons, Nicole knew that his sudden departure must mean that he had encountered some trouble. Thank you. Lawrence smiled with satisfaction. At least she still cares about me. After Nicole had seen Lawrence off, Lulu entered the office and asked, That's the CEO of Genesis Group, right? But why wasn't he here to discuss work? Do you know him? Nicole was puzzled. How did Lulu know Lawrence's identity? I just found out, Lulu smirked and scratched her head. Nicole found it amusing. Why are you so interested in him? Because of you, duh. Don't you think there's something strange about him? He gives off a mysterious vibe, Lulu genuinely reminded Nicole. Although she only took a quick glance, Lawrence really did give her that kind of impression. Nicole arched her brows as she wondered. Lawrence did have multiple identities, but I'm surprised that Lulu could sense it just from a brief encounter. Unbeknownst to Nicole, Lulu found Lawrence strange not because of his identity, but due to her intuition. Since Nicole had some understanding of Lawrence's situation, she naturally assumed that Lulu was talking about Lawrence's identity. Indeed, Lawrence's identity was more mysterious to others, but it was also a form of self-protection. So, Nicole did not think that there was anything wrong with it. Nicole bit her lips and looked at Lulu. He is my friend, and he saved my life back then. During the last 5 years, he has helped me and taken care of me a lot. Oh, I see. Lulu came to a realization. No wonder Lawrence's attitude toward Nicole seemed different. He's a savior. What's with that expression? What did you think it was? Nicole could not help but roll her eyes when she saw Lulu's failed attempt at gossip. It's nothing, I just suddenly feel like I gained another benefactor. Lulu's eyes gleamed with sincerity as she expressed her gratitude. Benefactor. Nicole was confused. Lulu nodded earnestly. If he hadn't saved you, I wouldn't have been able to see you again. Slightly taken aback, Nicole smiled at Lulu as a sense of warmth filled in her heart. They were friends, and Lulu genuinely cared about her. Nicole, how did you get by in the last 5 years? Why did you only come back to us now? Lulu rested her chin on her palm as she leaned on Nicole's desk with a puzzled expression. Well, I was injured and couldn't come back, Nicole explained lightly, avoiding the terrifying details. She did not want Lulu to know about those horrifying experiences. Oh, no wonder Mr. Johnston and the Riddle family kept you protected. Lulu's face turned pale as she found it hard to imagine what kind of danger Nicole had encountered. Knowing that Lulu genuinely cared about her, Nicole stared at Lulu. Suddenly, she remembered that Sean and Steve would bring their wives home in a few days. It would be nice to invite Lulu and June as well. With the thought in mind, Nicole smiled and arched an eyebrow. Lulu, we're having a family banquet in a few days. You should come too. Ah. Lulu was instantly dumbfounded. A family banquet? Can I even attend that? What's wrong? Don't you want to come? Nicole raised an eyebrow and teased her. Even an ugly daughter-in-law has to meet her parents-in-law, and what's more, you're a gorgeous daughter-in-law. Lulu blushed instantly, feeling embarrassed. No, don't say that. It's not like that. Not like that. Nicole was slightly surprised, widening her eyes. Are you and Spencer still not in a relationship? If that was the case, it would truly be shocking. Nicole thought the two of them should have already progressed further. How could they still be in the flirting stage? Lulu blushed and nodded before shaking her head, leaving Nicole even more confused. What's going on? She thought Lulu was already her future sister-in-law. Did she misunderstand something? Under Nicole's persistent questioning, Lulu blushed and said shyly, we're considered a couple, but I don't want it to go public. Yet. Why? Nicole was completely surprised. So Spencer didn't tell us because of Lulu. Lulu bit her lip and looked somewhat ashamed. I want to work harder and be worthy of him. Upon hearing this, Nicole was momentarily speechless, feeling a mix of shock and heartache. Lulu genuinely loved Spencer, which was why she had such thoughts. You don't need to do this. You're already good enough. Spencer choosing and approving you is already the greatest approval you could get. You don't need to feel inferior or put too much pressure on yourself. Nicole wanted to console Lulu as Lulu should not have such thoughts. Lulu nodded. I understand, but I still want to stand by his side with confidence. She might be more successful if she worked a little harder. Then, she would be more deserving of standing by his side. Why? You're already the chief secretary of the Riddle Corporation's chairman. Why would you still feel unworthy to stand next to a shareholder who doesn't participate in the company's management? Nicole could not help but tease her. No, it's not because of that. Spencer is already a famous violinist, but his girlfriend is just an unknown person. That's why I'll always feel some degree of pressure. Lulu smiled innocently. She did not feel wronged. In fact, it motivated her to move forward. Nicole shook her head and chuckled. She kind of understood why Lulu had endured extensive mistreatment at her previous company without resigning and changing jobs. Given the power of her previous company, Lulu would indeed achieve a sense of accomplishment if she had achieved results. Since this is your decision, I won't insist anymore. But you should still come to the family banquet. After all, only our family members will be there. Just don't announce your relationship with Spencer. Nicole made the decision for Lulu, but she was slightly worried that Lulu was still not going to attend, so she added, June will also be there. She agreed. Lulu's eyes widened in surprise. Nicole instantly understood that Samuel and June must also have their reasons for not making their relationship public. Okay. Lulu nodded in agreement. Nicole did not tell Lulu that she had not informed June yet, but she will make sure June showed up. Lulu did not think much of it and assumed that June had already agreed to attend, so she could only nod hesitantly. A faint smile appeared on Nicole's lips. She then sent Lulu away after arranging some tasks for her. Soon after, Nicole called June and used the same method to get her to agree to join the family banquet. With the mission accomplished, Nicole smiled triumphantly and started working in a good mood. In the afternoon, after having lunch with Lulu, Nicole went back to the office with her when she received a call from the investigation department. After Dylan reported the case to the police, accusing the HQ of the Riddle Corporation of maliciously manipulating the stock market, the police transferred the case to the relevant department for investigation. Okay, I'll be right there, Nicole said before hanging up the phone. I'll go with you, Lulu said with a serious expression as she was concerned. Nicole nodded in agreement. Okay. Soon, the two of them left Riddle Corporation and arrived at the investigation department. Upon entering the room that she was directed to, Nicole noticed that it looked similar to a conference room. Not only were there investigators present, but Dylan and the others were there as well. Seeing Nicole enter, Dylan put on a high and mighty posture and said, Nicole, I'm not forcing you because I'm your uncle. After all, this involved the entire Riddle family, and I still have to consider the best interest of the family. You didn't have to worry, Uncle Dylan, Nicole said politely. However, her eyes were cold, giving people an eerie feeling. Dylan's expression stiffened. He was not expecting Nicole to have such an attitude. Does she really not care about anything? They had been waiting for the investigation results for the past few days and had also been keeping an eye on Nicole's actions. They found that Nicole had taken no action at all, as if this matter had nothing to do with her. On the contrary, they were the ones who were anxious because they did not get any results from the investigation. When they finally got them, they hurriedly rushed over. But how could Nicole be so calm? Nicole, if you had just admitted in front of Grandpa, we wouldn't have ended up like this. Rain put on a concerned expression. Nicole sneered in her head but maintained a calm expression. She then raised an eyebrow and said lightly, let the investigators give us a fair and just answer. That's what's truly best for the Riddle family. Looking at Nicole's demeanor, Rain suddenly felt a sense of unease. Why do I feel like we've wrongly accused her? Wait, no. We're the ones with the evidence. Upon realizing this, Rain felt even more resentful. Why am I doubting because of Nicole's manipulative remarks? It's clearly her fault. Quiet. Finally, the investigators spoke up to stop the back and forth between them. Dylan looked at the investigators and nodded politely. So, it's been several days since this case started. Can you give us the results now? The investigator glanced at Dylan and said, the investigation results are now available. A flash of satisfaction crossed Dylan's eyes, but it quickly turned into anguish as he looked at Nicole. It seemed as though once the investigators announced the results, he would take action against her. Seeing through Dylan's thoughts, Nicole expressed a trace of disdain in her eyes. She returned his gaze with a mocking smile on Her lips. Regarding the case presented by Riddle Corporation's subsidiary against Riddle Corporation's main company for manipulating the stock market with malicious intent, the case has been dismissed due to insufficient evidence, the investigator said as he looked at Dylan. Nicole. Dylan's words almost slipped out, but he suddenly realized that something was wrong. It felt as though he had been struck by lightning. What's happening? The case has been dismissed? How could it be dismissed? Rain also found it unbelievable and blurted out without thinking, "Are you sure you're not mistaken?" With a cold expression, the investigator continued, "On the other hand, due to your fabrication of evidence, Mr. Dylan Riddle, you are now under arrest for false accusations. The investigation is pending." What? Dylan felt a wave of dizziness. Rain's face turned pale as a sheet as well. Soon, two uniformed individuals entered, ready to detain Dylan. Dylan truly panicked this time and could not help but shout, "No, this isn't right. I don't accept it." "Accept it or not, it depends on the investigation results," the investigator said sternly. "Wait a minute, we want bail," Rain shouted in a panic, trying to prevent Dylan from being taken away. "We don't handle bails here. You'll have to talk to the police." The investigator waved his hand, and Dylan was taken away. Rain suddenly felt weak all over and was close to stumbling. "Watch out." James supported Rain to help her regain her balance. With a face filled with resentment, Rain glared at Nicole and said through her teeth, "You're heartlessly cruel, Nicole. She must have planned this. That's why she has been so calm all this while." "Ah, I'm nothing compared to you." Nicole's gaze became as chilling as a sharp sword. "You." Rain was at a loss for words. She even started to tremble. James comforted her in a low voice, "Let's check on Dad first." Rain clenched her hands tightly. In the end, she could only grit her teeth and say, "Let's go." "All right, I'll help you," James agreed and helped Rain leave quickly. He knew very well that Dylan could not afford any mishaps at this time. Otherwise, the situation would become even more disadvantageous for them. Nicole's gaze was cold as she watched the two of them hurry away. "Nicole, what's going on?" Lulu was stupefied. Although Nicole had told her before that it was nothing, the fact that this case had alarmed the police and resulted in an investigation was still rather shocking for Lulu. Their methods were clumsy, so they exposed themselves. Nicole's eyes flashed with disdain. "They just shot themselves in the foot." Lulu then asked carefully, "Well then, can we leave now?" It still felt surreal for her. Nicole nodded with a smile. "Yeah, we can leave now." "Then let's go." Lulu just wanted to leave. To her, it will only feel like it was over once they stepped out of there. Nicole found her reaction amusing. After completing the necessary procedures, she left with Lulu. Once they were in the car, Lulu finally felt like she could breathe normally again. She could not help but pat her chest and say, "Oh my, I couldn't even take a deep breath in there." "Then you didn't have to come with me." Nicole shook her head gently. "Hey, I was worried about you." Lulu stuck out her tongue to Nicole. She was nervous, but she would still accompany Nicole even if it meant overcoming the psychological distress she felt. Nicole smiled warmly. "Everything's fine now, so you can relax." But what exactly happened earlier? Why did Dylan end up getting arrested? Lulu was confused. Weren't those pieces of evidence against Nicole? Dylan did get hold of some evidence, but he didn't know that the evidence was given to him by Everett. He thought he had found evidence against me and was going to report me. He accused me of bribing the fund manager and manipulating the stock market with malicious intent. He even had all sorts of evidence prepared. Nicole shook her head, feeling resigned. She could not even be bothered to do such a thing. Besides, even if she did it, there would be no evidence left behind. Oh, so Dylan was set up by Everett, Lulu realized. If the evidence was fake, the police would naturally discover that he had fabricated evidence when they looked into this case, which ultimately led to his arrest. "You can say that Everett is sitting back and reaping the benefits quietly," Nicole explained. no matter who got into trouble. Everett would still benefit from it. He's really taking advantage of the situation. How despicable. Lulu sighed disdainfully. He's cunning indeed. A glint of determination flashed in Nicole's eyes as she continued, but I'm not that easy to manipulate. If Everett wanted to benefit from the situation, he still had to go through her. Lulu's curiosity was piqued as her eyes widened. What do you have in mind? Dylan isn't someone who would willingly take a loss, Nicole said. If Dylan found out that Everett tricked him, there might be an interesting show to watch. Lulu also understood what Nicole was trying to say. Then we'll watch the dogs bite each other. She could not help but smirk. Excited the whole time, Lulu noticed that the car had finally stopped, and they had arrived back at the Riddle residence. After getting out of the car, they made their way to the top floor. Just as they stepped out of the elevator, they ran into Sean and Steve. Seeing Nicole return, they looked visibly relaxed and asked, "Are you okay?" Noticing their slightly concerned expressions, Nicole understood that they must have known that she was called in for questioning. "I'm fine," Nicole explained with a smile. "I didn't want to disturb you when I left because you were in a meeting. From now on, no matter what happens, you have to inform us immediately," Sean responded sternly. When they were done with the meeting, they were shocked to hear that Nicole had been summoned by the investigative department. They were extremely worried that something might happen to Nicole. Knowing that they were worried about her, Nicole reassured Sean and Steve, saying, "Don't worry. I know what I'm doing." "So tell us what happened. How did it go?" Steve asked in a deep voice. Since Nicole had returned, it probably meant that she was fine. But what about Dylan? After Nicole briefly explained the situation, Sean and Steve finally felt relieved. "Sean, Steve, you just finished the meeting, and there must be a lot of work to do. So, go and take care of it. I'm not alone anyway, so don't worry about me. If something really happens, Lulu will ask for your help." Nicole pushed Lulu forward, hoping that Sean and Steve would not worry about her so much. In fact, she could handle many things on her own. Besides, they were all terribly busy, and they should not be distracted by her affairs. "Our matters are not more important than yours," Sean reminded Nicole. "We won't be able to bear it if something happens to you again. Rest assured, even if it's for the sake of all of you, I won't let anything happen to me," Nicole responded warmly. She knew that these people cared deeply about her, and ever since she returned, she had developed a true bond with her family despite losing her memories. Knowing that Nicole was fine, Sean and Steve finally settled down and went back to work. Nicole also returned to her office to handle the new tasks that had been assigned to her. On the other hand, Rain and James had already arranged bail for Dylan, and the three of them had just come out of the police station. Dylan seemed to have aged significantly in a brief period of time, and his whole demeanor was desolate. "Dad, is it possible that we were tricked by Nicole?" Rain gritted her teeth in anger. "Let's go home first." Dylan's gaze turned cold, and his voice was chilling. He had already thought about it and found out that the evidence he possessed was actually a double-edged sword that stabbed him. The testimonies were retracted, and the physical evidence had turned into proof of his forgery. It was difficult for him to prove his innocence. He was confused as he wondered, "Everything went smoothly before, and I didn't fabricate anything. I truly got it after investigating, so why did everything change all of a sudden? Was Rain right? Did we just get set up by Nicole? Dad, we need to find a way to uncover the truth behind this. We can't just silently bear this loss," James said indignantly. Dylan glanced at James before nodding. "You're right. We should investigate." He was well aware that something was amiss in this matter, and no matter who was behind it, he had to find that person. Leaning against the seat, Dylan immediately called his assistant and ordered, "Find out who's behind all this now. He will make that person pay. Dad, let us take you home to rest. You don't have to worry about the company. We'll keep an eye on it," Rain reassured Dylan. In a low voice. "Okay," Dylan grunted in response. Knowing that her father's trust in her had increased a little more, Rain was secretly delighted. However, she still remained humble and cautious on the surface. After sending Dylan home, Rain and James headed for the company. "Do you really think Nicole is behind this?" James asked Rain in a low voice. Who else could it be?" Rain snorted arrogantly. She actually felt slightly excited as she continued delightedly. "Once Dad finds the evidence, Nicole will have no place in the Riddle family anymore. As long as I drive Nicole away, everything in the Riddle family would eventually belong to me." James understood Rain's intention as a meaningful smile grew on his face. Meanwhile, at home, Karen approached Dylan when she saw how exhausted he looked as he entered the house. "What happened to you?" she asked. "Don't get me started." Dylan briefly explained the situation with a dejected tone, feeling increasingly unlucky, as things were not going well. "Why did it end up like this?" Snow's face turned pale upon hearing the outcome, feeling utterly frustrated. She had been eagerly awaiting a favorable result for Nicole's arrest, but why did it turn out like this? How could that wretched Nicole be so smart? How did she escape? Karen gnashed her teeth in frustration. Dylan's eyes turned cold as he said, "Let's see how long she can last." "Dad, do you have a plan?" Snow's eyes lit up with a glimmer of hope. "Why ask when you won't be of any use to us? Just stay out of trouble for now." Dylan left with these words as he took big strides. Upstairs, he was already feeling annoyed, yet everyone still kept bombarding him with questions, making him even more agitated. Karen and Snow exchanged glances. Their expressions grew serious, but they did not dare ask any further. As the sun set, it cast a golden glow over the horizon. Nicole came out of the company and saw Jared waiting for her. She approached him quickly with a smile and said, "Have you been waiting for long?" Normally, he would be sitting in the car. But today he had gotten out, so she guessed that he had arrived early. "No, I haven't." Jared gently raised his hand to stroke Nicole's hair. Under the setting sun, the shadow of the couple was stretched out on the ground. Their shadows met each other at one point, creating a beautiful and romantic image. "You seem to be in an exceptionally good mood today." Jared looked at Nicole, his eyes filled with tenderness. "The plan succeeded, so I obviously have to be happy." Nicole knew that Jared must have already known everything, so there was no need to hide anything. He smiled indulgently and asked, "Is it because the plan succeeded, or because you have a new plan?" Nicole could not help but roll her eyes at Jared. She said, "You know about that too, huh? I seriously suspect that you've planted spies around me." "I just understand you." Jared's lips curled up as he held her delicate hand with a gentle smile. Nicole pouted as she thought, "Since he knows me so well, there's nothing surprising about me anymore." Jared could not help but chuckle when he saw her frustrated expression. He raised his hand to stroke her hair and said, "When you regain your memories, you'll know that you understand me just as well." Nicole bit her lip. "But I can't experience the feeling he's talking about without my memories." Seemingly understanding her thoughts, Jared suggested, "Then I won't mention it anymore. I'll just wait for you to tell me." "Your words, not mine." Nicole raised her head as she searched for reassurance in Jared's eyes. Looking at her raised chin and the enticing shade of her red lips, Jared lowered his head and gently pecked her lips before promising her dotingly, "Of course." Nicole's cheeks instantly flushed when she felt an electrifying sensation rushing through her lips. "Just talk to me, and stop being so touchy," Nicole scolded Jared with a glare, looking all shy and coquettish. Jared's eyes darkened for a moment before he dominatingly wrapped his arms around her and started kissing her. When Nicole was finally released from his hold, her mind was still in a daze. After gradually coming back to her senses, her pink cheeks became even more flushed. Nicole's cheeks were already burning with embarrassment after being surrounded by people watching them make out on the street. She pulled Jared into the car as she thought, "This guy is really becoming more and more outrageous. Doesn't he take his surroundings into consideration?" She should be thankful that the employees had already left at this time. Otherwise, she would have been thoroughly embarrassed. Jared could not help but smile when he saw her trying to escape. Don't be nervous. We're legally married, he reminded her. Even if we're legally married, we should still consider the occasion, Nicole complained through gritted teeth. He actually had the audacity to justify himself. A trace of mischief flashed in Jared's eyes as he leaned closer to Nicole and asked in a low voice, "So, Mrs. Johnston, what kind of occasion do you think is appropriate? Shall we go home?" Nicole's lips twitched fiercely. Why am I hearing a different meaning from his "shall we go home" remark? Why did my thoughts start going astray? Is this disorder contagious? The more she thought about it, the more annoyed she became. Nicole pushed Jared away and sat as far away from him as possible, clearly drawing a boundary. "Well, Mrs. Johnston, if you don't like being at home, where do you like?" Jared deliberately teased her. "I don't want to be anywhere." Nicole gnashed her teeth. She really wanted to zip Jared's lips together. "Why do I go weak when he speaks? Haha." Jared burst out laughing as he found that teasing her was really amusing. She used to be shy a few years back. And now, after 5 years, she had just become even more shy. What the hell is he laughing at? Nicole glared at Jared with resentment. She was grinding her teeth hard as she thought, "Why am I so irritated?" Jared restrained himself a little when he felt that he might be pushing her too far. He then pulled Nicole back, not doing anything to make her feel flustered or embarrassed anymore. The car stopped when they arrived at the preschool. "Mommy, why are you late today?" Nolan asked with a frown. Lana also asked Jared, "Yeah, Dad. We're the only ones left in school." Nicole cast a subtle glare at Jared. It was all his fault that we were late in picking up the children. But she obviously could not tell the children about this, so she had to come up with an excuse. "Mommy was delayed with some work. I promise to be on time from now on, okay?" "Okay." Nolan and Lana replied in unison. Nicole smiled and happily led their 2 adorable kids into the car. The car started again, heading towards Nicole's home. "Mommy, our school's going to have a parent-child sports event. Can you and Dad come with us?" Lana tilted his little head expectantly. "A parent-child sports event? When is it?" Nicole asked hesitantly. Of course, she wanted to participate in the children's parent-child activities, but did she really have to go with Jared? She concealed their true identities to ensure their safety. So, the section for the children's father was left blank, meaning that they only had her as a parent. Will Jared cause any unnecessary trouble if he attended? Sure. Seeing Nicole's hesitation, Jared understood her concerns and answered aloud. "But..." Nicole's eyes widened in surprise as she looked at Jared. "If he were to attend and someone saw him?" "It's okay, I'll take care of it." Jared gently squeezed Nicole's hand as he reassured her in a soft voice, "Don't worry. Nothing will happen. Besides, the children want us to go." "Come on, Mommy," Lana said, looking at Nicole with anticipation.
Please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.